Aspiring Solopreneur. The book. What is it? You know what? I wrote it. We're going to go through and we'll talk about it. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. All right, so the intention. Where did this come from? Why did I invest this time and energy? Well, I started my first of 16 company when I was 19. I built them, bought them, sold them, wrecked them. And I can tell you that the age and day that we live in, it has never, ever been easier to start a business. In fact, it's never been easier to safely research, vet, explore, test, try, and step into a new business safely, and a lot of times with almost no money. So this book is very much intended to help people specifically walk through step by step by step by step. It crushes my heart when I hear the statistics that half of all small businesses fail in the first year. It doesn't have to be that way. It crushes people's relationships, it takes people's life savings and things like that. And it really, really doesn't have to. You can do it very safely and very, very methodically so that when you choose to pull the trigger, jump, it's a no-brainer. So I'm going to read specifically right out of the book, what are the different areas. So the first is we go through and we identify what are your motivations and assess the market. This is so important for people. Some people have the idea that owning a business is important or that they want it, but they're not really thinking about what's it going to take for them to do it. So there's some very candid questions and exercises that go through. And there's exercises throughout the whole book that can help you really vet out, why do you want to do this? What's the intention? So when it comes to being a solopreneur, if you want to have the flexibility to live the dream life, holy smokes, you're there, man. You can do great with that. I can tell you that my wife, Rika, and I spend almost 2 months a year doing adventure travel. We live mostly in the high country of Colorado, and we get to work with people we really love when we want to, and we have a big impact. So we have the flexibility. Rika works 2 or 3 days a week as a counselor, and I work 4 to 5 days, usually 3 to 5 days, as a senior advisor, coach, and writer. So with this, the first thing is we go through and we help you understand, why are you doing this? What are your motivations? Because the last thing you want to do is jump from a job that's okay into a lifestyle where you're owning a business but you weren't meant to. So it helps you define that, and it's also going to help you assess your market. The second step is going to be to define a team of advisors. And this is one of those areas where people are like, well, God, I have to figure all this stuff out. Actually, you don't. It's pretty easy in a lot of ways. Just keep in mind that there is an army of beautiful, wonderful professionals out there who they're also in a lot of cases solopreneurs, and they need to be building their practice. They need to be building their book. And in most cases, quality professionals are going to be willing to give you up to an hour of their time to explore if you're a good fit with them and vice versa. And you can get good information out of this. So I usually start with the idea of finding a good quality business accountant, small business accountant, not an auditor, not a big business accountant, but somebody who understands this space. Because they are going to have a big network of people they can also connect with. So you start with the accountant. What are the types of things I'm going to need for bookkeeping? What do I need? What kind of business entity would you suggest? Who should I talk to as an attorney to help me create that entity? What about insurance? Different types of things. Don't get overwhelmed. It's easy. They'll walk you through this, and then they're going to introduce you in all likelihood to a quality small business attorney, a small business insurance person, maybe a small business marketing person, maybe even other people in the industry, and who knows, you may even get a referral or two out of it for people who are looking for other work. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. And within the book, again, we talk about each step by step by step. And by the way, we have a full course, self-paced online course, online, and you can find that at theaspiringsolopreneur.com. So then once you do that, we're going to do for prepping for launch. Now, this is one of those things where a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to go in my business, I'm going to go all in. If you can avoid it, man, don't. I've started, of the 16 companies, one didn't work out, and that was where I got clobbered by Google. And I still think they're wrong, but you can't really call God, so. Anyway, with this, there's ways that you're going to very, very safely and intentionally do this. You're going to have positive and open discussions with your partner or significant other, so you make sure that you're on the same page with what you're looking at and how you're looking at moving forward. And then within this, it's going to define what you need in a space, how to do marketing and biz dev, two very different things, but there's some very, very simple ways to do this without investing a ton of money. Making sure you're compliant, government compliant. Sounds crazy, but this is one of the number one things that bites people on the butt is, do you have the right compliance with the government, how you're doing things? Building your success guide, and then reviewing the business plan and asking yourself the tough questions. So as you go through this process, as you fill out these things, you're actually going to have a full business plan by the time you get there. Something that you could take to a quality small business banker, and they're going to help you with it. They'll come back and say this. And again, I specifically lay out all the questions that you should or shouldn't ask, and how do you find somebody and remind you that they're working for you. But the ultimate question comes down to, when you're building this out, is if your sister-in-law came to you with this business plan and said, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of doing this business and I need to borrow 15 grand. Would you be willing to do it? Is it like, yeah, this is a good deal. I'm happy to give this money to you because I know I'm going to get it back. Or if it's like, yeah, I love you, but we had that thing and things are tight, and you start dodging it. If you know you start dodging it and you do that for somebody else, then you may have questions of whether it's the right thing for you. And there's some very specific checklists within the book on what are the questions you should ask. How do you know that without a doubt, when you do this, it's a no-brainer? And then the last segment of this book, once you decide to jump and you start doing it, ideally you start moonlighting and you do a 10%, 20%, 30%, working a little bit at night, maybe during the day, whatever it is, flex time compared to your other gig, and then you transition so you know no question you're going to be safe. But the last thing we talk about is what is it like to navigate those first 6 months as a pro? Because it's very, very different if you've never been your own boss. If you're the kind of person who needs somebody to give you a little kick in the pants to make sure you show up on time, that you're doing things, that you're following through, you should have that question early with yourself. But there's also some tips and techniques that you can go through to ensure that you're going to drive for that success early. But long story short, this will help you. And candidly, if you go through and say, yeah, I don't want to do this, to me that is the biggest victory I could hear. It means that you maybe just saved your relationships, maybe it just saved your life savings. Maybe it just kept you on the right track and you have a new appreciation for where you're working. But whatever it is, if you do this, but if you can jump into it, man, I promise you that on the other side, when you're living life like that, you're truly thriving and living life on your terms. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put questions in the chat below or reach out directly to us at aspiringsolopreneur.com. And we would love you to subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on here. If you know anybody else, pass it on. Keep smiling.